Hey everyone, it's Kong again with a very special episode of Should You Summon. This is the 100th episode. Can't believe I've been doing this every week for what feels like 100 years. As always, in this episode, I'm going to be presenting high-level overviews using these 4 criteria to help you decide whether this banner is worth your hard-earned vouchers and crystals. How these characters fit into your team, whether they unlock any bonds, what kind of content they get used for, and their future availability. So let's get right into this crossover banner featuring Alexander the Fourth, Elzan, Jalila, Langrisser Kruger, Red Moon, Red Trees, Rameshi, Zirash, running from January to January. As a Destiny banner, the first SSR you pull is guaranteed on-banner hero with the remaining unlucky 20% reserved after you pop that guarantee, or if you already have all 3 featured heroes, it's treated as a normal rate up with a 20% off-banner rate. First up, we've got they're members of and Rosenseal. For bonds, he doesn't currently roadblock anyone else's bonds, and anyone else for their own defensive bond. For content, in PvE, they're on faction for Leviar in the Eternal Temple, and Fenrir in Ancient Beckoning. You know what, as fun as this is, I'm not going to do a whole episode like this, so let's put a stop to the fun and get into the actual banner featuring the launch of the latest new original characters from Langrisser Mobile, the Transcender and Alpha. If you've been following the channel for a while, you'll know that I've been hyped for Transcend and Gizroff for a long time. I even touched up his art with his signature beard and hat 6 months ago when he was first announced for China. Well, I have to admit, the reason I'm excited is because of his excellent art and because of the ridiculous concept. As far as actual gameplay is concerned, well, temper your expectations. He's not great. I just wanted to clarify that before we even get started because I don't want anyone to misconstrue my enthusiasm. Anyway, this banner runs from November 18th to December 1st. As a rate-up banner, you have a 40% chance to get each on-banner character, with the remaining 20% reserved for probably better off-banner units. First up, we have the Transcender. The Transcender is basically what happens when Gizroff writes himself in as the main character of a fanfic. He's basically a magical DPS with an unfocused variety of single-target and AoE attacks. He has low base int, but he builds up stacks of stats as he uses skills. If he's healthy, he can regular attack twice, like what Ledin does on counterattacks. His 3-cost skill makes it so he doesn't suffer melee damage penalties, and it gives him a shield like Kruger's if he drops below 50% HP, and no, it doesn't stack with Kruger's. The active component of his 3C swaps his hit point percentage with an enemy and then lets him act again. His regular kit has Strengthen to help him build up talent stacks, a bunch of cheap line attacks and non-debuffing AoEs, a line AoE that pulls enemies towards you, and a big 0.45 times damage nuclear option. He's a member of Dark Reincarnation, buffed by Bozel and Licorice, Mythical Realm, buffed by Gizroff and the Sage of the Trees, and Yeles Legends, buffed by Landius and Sigma. For bonds, he unlocks the attack bond for bannermate Alpha, and for his own bonds, he needs Epsilon for his defensive bond and the old original Gizroff for his attack bond. For content, in PvE, he's on faction for Leviar and Phoenix in the Eternal Temple, and Fenrir and Nidhogg in Ancient Beckoning. He's not going to be a top-scoring option for either A-B fight, although he could be a second-string DPS for Nidhogg if you don't have the meta units. Similarly, his problem for Fenrir is that the other big AoE options like Bozel, Arian Rod, and Kruger, and heck, even Varna, are simply better at this job. You know I'm going to be streaming casual runs at both these bosses with him in the lineup, though. In PvP, he does have decent factions, slightly better if Landius is one of your tanks, obviously, but it's tough to think of who to drop to put him in your box. And actually, this is where the scattershot inconsistency of his kit starts to really hurt him. Unlike someone like Lucretia, who has a little bit of everything, and it lets her pivot effectively to different playstyles, the Transcender's variety just seems unfocused. His base int is low. He has a couple of AoE options, but they're not bundled with heavy debuffing. His talent is based on single target normal attacks. His 3-cost skill isn't even an attack, it's an active HP swap, so it can't trigger clock. Not that you need to clock it anyway. The point is, if you do want to run clock for one of your big AoEs, you're essentially only getting the effect of your enchant for 1 or 2 of your skills tops. So you're going to be looking at a 3-cost skill to act again, probably a 2-cost AoE with a big cooldown, and then normal attacks while his one weapon is spent. And he needs to use skills to build up his talent stacks. If he had any kind of team support or utility built into his talent, or if his talent stacked up automatically, or if he had more mobility, then it might have been enough to make up for his shortcomings. As it is, those rippling abs are definitely compensating for something. For availability, we do know he'll be coming back on another raid-up banner alongside Rosenseal on April 15th. Next up, we have Alpha. Alpha may look like a tank, and she technically has guard skills, but kind of like Bernhardt or Ultimuller, she's actually a heavy bruiser. Her talent gives her boosted damage, and an interesting damage reduction shield that swaps between physical and magical reduction each turn. Her 3-cost skill gives her 1 revive to 100% hit points, but it comes at the cost of shutting down her shield mechanic for the rest of the battle. The active component is a self-centered AoE explosion that does more damage the lower her hit points, up to plus 100% damage, but the trade-off is that it hits her too. She also has a couple of not very compelling guard skills and some auto-healing, frontal assault, and a 2-cost attack that lets her choose which of her shields to activate. But of course it'll swap next turn, so it does take some planning. She's a member of Dark Reincarnation, buffed by Bozel and Licorice, and Empire's Honor, buffed by Bernhardt, Leon, Lance, and Rosenseal. For bonds, she doesn't currently roadblock anyone else's bonds, and for her own bonds she needs Epsilon for her defensive bond, and she needs her bannermate, the Transcender, for her attack bond. For content, she's technically on faction for Leviar, Valkyrie, Fenrir, and Sleipnir, but I can't really see her doing anything useful in those fights, except for maybe Valkyrie, where pretty much anyone will work if you have the right class rotation. On the PvP side, she might be an interesting option for people who have the right box. I know that's the caveat I always give with PvP, but it's pretty much true. People who are going to build niche units like this basically know what they're doing, and they know the kind of box they need to support her. Personally, I think the temptation to build her as a tank or even an off-tank is definitely there given the fact that she basically has guard skills in her kit, but I don't think she's going to be really great at that role. The rotating shields are a little bit of a distraction. They make it look like they can be used to help her tank, but I think they'll actually be better served to help give you damage reduction when you're attacking into certain units. That way you at least have more control over which shield is up at the time that you need it. Anyway, she didn't make a huge splash in China. She did appear in a couple of playoff boxes, but again, didn't really make a huge impact on the games either way. And then I don't expect to really see her that much, especially after characters like Werner and Ui Tham come out and start taking up those valuable box slots. For availability, Alpha's return hasn't been revealed on the upcoming banner schedule yet, but since we know the Transcender's coming back on a raid-up, the pattern would dictate Alpha will be on a Destiny banner and shouldn't be too far behind. So here's the quick and dirty. The Transcender has a gimmicky hit point swap and an AoE nuke. He unlocks the attack bonds for Alpha. Alpha is a Lancer Bruiser with type swapping shields. She has a revive and a self-exploding AoE. So let's move on to the notes for Noobs. All that context and info is all well and good, but should you summon these? You can probably tell from my tone throughout this video which way I'm leaning already. The Transcender might have a chance at being salvaged if he gets a truly unique piece of exclusive equipment that somehow ties his whole kit together. For now, he's only worth summoning if you like abs. Alpha is another waifu-only summon. It's convenient that they release these highly skippable characters in the 2 months leading up to Nalzui Famish in January. Very considerate. Finally, just my usual reminder about upcoming banners. Next week we have a Raid Up banner featuring Rosalia and the Light of Genesis, who are useful for lots of stuff. The coming weeks feature several Catch-Up Destiny banners featuring Mariel, Werner, and Patzer, Landius, Yulia, and Jugler, and Lanford, Shelfaniel, and Virash. Lanford again, so soon. I know I keep beating this drum, but it's important to remember that there's a powerful new meta unit coming out in January by the name of Weitham. He's on a unique limited Raid Up banner where he's the only on-banner unit. 40% chance to summon him, 60% chance to pull an off-banner, and then he's not going into the regular summoning pool afterwards, so be prepared. Alright, that's it for this epic episode. I hope you found this video and these summaries helpful enough to warrant a little thumbs up. I'm going to be doing my 3,000 subscriber Summon Fest 2.0 tomorrow, shortly after the banner drops. I think I've got 5 or 6 SSR accessory gambles to do as well, and I'll be summoning on the Rachel banner, the Cherie banner, the Transcendent banner, and of course the normal hero and normal gear banners, so wish me luck. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next Should You Summon. Extra special thanks, especially in this episode, this milestone episode, to our Langrisser tier channel members for generously supporting the channel directly. Levitt, Derek Gunderson, William Householder, Kate Soon, Jared Portela, Eden Seal, Shara Ilimirius, and Kyle Greer-Brown. Thanks, folks. Feel them, though, no, it's a little shadowy,